Basically, I send out the PR. You can.
Do you want to share, or do you want me to share?
It should be okay. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So the very first PR and it fails CI right now, and it should fail the CI. If a CI doesn't fail, then something's wrong. So if you open that. Okay. So basically, what I'm trying to do is that so right now, the Open Computer side. I think the Dash Echo APIs are actually different from what we are generating from the Dash repo. So basically, because BMV2 uses optional match kind to generate the code. So the code is actually the header files that we generate from the Dash repo says that it is optional, like all the things are there. But in the side, what we actually need is a list. Right, so in the Open Computer side, the check-in version is a list. So I changed the match type or match kind to support the list. However, the problem is that in the lib files. So yeah, the header files generate all good. Is all changed to whatever matches Open Computer side, and yeah, so this is the difference. Yeah, looks great. The problem is the lib.
What is the problem in
the? Yeah. So lib side, yes. Oh, there we go. So the lib side. So now because it is changed to a list, it's not optional anymore. So what happens is that it doesn't know how to tell the BMV2 because BMV2 still uses the optional. This generation script just says, okay, whatever it is, like in the BMV2, we are going to override that to list or range list. So the generate code will say, okay, I'm going to generate a range list, but well, it doesn't know how to generate that, so it actually fails. So it says error and go to error. So the question here is that what is the right way to go? So basically, should we keep it as it is, like don't do that for echo, or I suppose we want to do that for echo, like everything should be generated, but in here, basically we need to convert the list to an option. Then this thing can tell the BMV2, program BMV2 like correctly. But they're essentially two different things. So how we want to convert, I think that is a question. I guess it doesn't.
Wasn't there a preprocessor directive that that selected between list type or not in the behavioral model code in the first place because BMV2 doesn't support this type?
Yeah. So BMV2 doesn't support list or range list. So in the BMV2, there is a ECFine that forces to use optional. But the optional is not what we use in the site header files, which causes site header files cannot be generated correctly.
I thought we had a PR on list match types. Is this the same thing? Number 235 from a long time ago? Or it would have been closed. I'll let you guys talk while I'm looking. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no problem at all.
Right. So the problem is that, as Chris mentioned, BMV2 doesn't support list.
Right.
So we need to make BMV2, even if we would convert like site list to BMV2 optional, we still need to make BMV2 think that list and optional is the same thing. Require changes to BMV2.
Yeah, I guess BMV2 essentially doesn't support list and range list anyway. So yeah, but the header is of course a list. Yeah.
List is just like it's optional with more than one value, and range list is range with more than one value.
More than one value.
Yeah. So the idea was that we could have like a simplified version in BMV2.
Yeah.
Where
take
list
the first item.
yeah, list would have at max one item, not the first, just the like write the test that list has only one item,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
range list is just one range.
Yeah.
But we also need to teach BMV2 what these match types mean, and that's what's missing.
Yeah, yeah. So BMV2 still use optional, and we just in the leap side, like generate a leap side, we convert them, take the first item, or just like yeah, basically the first item, and send it to BMV2. But we only program the very first item. That's optional. So that will make everything connects. Yeah, I think I left the comment on the underneath basically are saying this thing, but okay. If this is the right way to go, I'll make the rest of the changes. Yeah, but this is, I guess, is kind of related to behavior model. So I decided to like bring it up in the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
that's a PR. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of thanks, Riff. That's a lot of work. Okay, and I think Chris, did you have anything for today, or Bud?
Not myself. I've just been kind of watching, trying to keep up with Riff's
Yeah.
PR, review them. He's
Generation.
Riff is really Riff is riffing on this.
Yeah, he's ripping on it. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
He's
Oh my God!
shredding
Thanks a
he's
lot
shredding
for
the repo.
reviewing.
Yeah, he's shredding the repo.
Thanks a lot.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh.
Okay.
That's
Bud, did you
compliment.
have anything that you wanted to cover today?
I just have one comment on a PR that I haven't written up yet, but I could just
Okay.
kind of like say it right now. So Riff, on your resimulation doc, there's the addition of the rate limiting for resimulation. And I think in that API, you specified like the rate, and I think it was in units of 100 milliseconds and like a burst amount. I would recommend like simplifying that and just having like
But you 1 second.
simulations per second, like keep it simple. Because any
Yeah.
policer, any policer
I think that's
implementation is going to have some characteristics like granularity, accuracy, range, and stuff like that. And I would just leave it to the implementation to choose something that's appropriate. Like if you tell us the rate you want, just in general, like 1,000 per second or 1,000,000 per second, like we can figure out what the burst and the timing is and all the other details of it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comment. I like, I haven't updated doc yet because recently I was doing the generation stuff. But yeah, I feels like I did something like really silly at that time because essentially like all the existing rate limiting mechanisms, for example, like the even just the like the psi for the like polythers. So all the rates actually confirm with that. So all the rates are actually based on seconds. And if you want to do like more granularity stuff, it's actually forced into the shapers. And the shaper will be like very different. And I believe only not only but Cisco implemented this one in and found a doc online. So but it's kind of different. So it basically then allows you to specify what's the minimum interval then we can use to decide like what's a how the shape would look like. Well, essentially, it's like how frequently we want to refresh the token to the bucket. And then there is a minimum value that you cannot go beyond. So that makes the shaper. Yeah, so I changed the doc to, I forgot if I changed the doc or not, but if not, so this is what I'm going to do, see if that makes sense. So basically, the rate would be default to like per second, just like you said. And we can add another attribute, says, and that is interval, which is like token refresh interval. So with that, if we suppose like shaper-ish operations underneath, then yeah, the interval can be put in use. Otherwise, it just default to 1 second. Does that make sense?
I guess I didn't understand the part about the shaper.
I see.
So
I can
like,
actually send out, yeah.
So I mean, I understand like from my data plane past, like polices and papers, but like my understanding is that like policing is just like an instantaneous like decision to like allow or not allow, and the shaping is like implies a queue where you're collecting up a bunch of things and letting them through at a rate.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you should assume that there's a queue there. I
Yes,
guess
I forgot that one. Yes,
if
there
the
may not be a queue there.
yeah, I mean, if the vendor has a queue, I guess you could specify that other value and maybe let them use that, but I don't know. It still seems to me like too much detail in the side API. Like if the vendor needs some kind of rate limiting, I think they just need a hint. Like just tell us in general what you want, like 1,000 per second, 1,000,000 per second, and the other details of the attributes of the policer or the shaper can be based on what the rate is. I just don't know if you have to put that in the API.
Yeah, actually updated the doc, so it's already have the refill size and refill interval in millisecond. Yeah, I think without if we just simply remove the refill interval in millisecond, yeah, I can send out the link.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
that's what I would think. Like.
Yeah. So, Christina, do you mind to open that link?
This link right here?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, not this link. I mean the link to in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let me do that. No.
Hey, Marion, I don't know if you have any opinion on this.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'd remove it.
Yeah. Basically, we just remove this one. In the 1.6. So. Yep. If you scroll down a little bit, and yeah, there we go. So right now it's a refill size and the refill interval. So basically, we just simply remove the refill interval and say and refill size is like every 1 second we refill this much. Then should serve the purpose. Does that make sense? Yeah, Christina, do you mind to scroll up a little bit?
Yeah, if you can scroll up the half a page there.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, so basically we specify the maximum token bucket size and then the refill size, which is refill every second, how much we refill every second. And then we just simply remove the refill interval, then should matches what you're saying.
So you're saying keep two, so I think we're saying slightly different things. I think you're saying get rid of the interval one and keep the other two.
Yeah.
See, I would say just make one that's called resimulation rate.
Yeah, exactly. I also don't understand why we need a max size and then refill size.
If we only have the refill rate, then how can we specify or like how much burst we can support? I think the maximum token bucket size is to specify like how much burst we can support.
Yeah, I mean, so Riff, like the vendor can pick that. If you tell me you want like 1,000,000 resimulations per second, I know what my implementation is. I know what my accuracy and granularity is, and so I'll pick maybe maybe I'll do 100 millisecond bucket token refill, and I will do 1/10 of the million in that time. But I can pick that. I mean, as vendors, like we can pick reasonable values for these if you give us an idea, like with the PPS. I mean, the resimulations per second. Like you don't have to like feed us every little bit of data. We can figure out for our implementation what these different internal attributes are.
I see. Okay.
Right. So the SAI API should specify intention, and intention is to limit the rate of simulations.
I mean, in particular, just out of curiosity, the name token refill size. The comment says refill rate. The name and the comment seem.
Oh yeah. Sorry, that's a typo. Yep, that's
then
good.
If you have the rate, then what's the interval for?
So the refill, I forgot to change the rate. It's actually the size in this version.
But you have a token bucket size just before you have the token bucket refill size. What do the two different sizes mean? If there's
the token bucket size is like maximum. So basically, let's say initially we have a full token bucket and then has 100 token in it. Just saying random number. Then the refill size is like how much token we want to refill every once in a while. Say in the beginning we get a burst, right? We get a burst of traffic. And then use all the 100 tokens. Then we basically will get a small spike, goes up, then says okay, 100 requests gets served. Then once it goes once you use all the tokens, no more resimulation will happen. Then after say 1 second, we say okay, let's refill 50. Only refill 50. Then in the first second it will serve like 100, but in the second, because this like the pressure actually is long-lasting pressure, then on the second it will drop to like say 50, and then.
But I would say that if you had the token bucket size of 100 and you have a refill rate of 50 per second, those are the only two parameters you need to specify. That you don't need a refill size and an interval.
I don't need a refill interval, but
right, just a rate.
But then how? Yeah, but my question is then how do we tell like how much burst we can support? Even in the policer, then will be like 3.
Size is the burst size. It's 100.
Bucket size. Yeah. So basically, the token bucket size and refill size, right?
Refill rate, I would call it.
A refill rate. Yeah. Refill rate.
So the size is the burst, max burst size you can handle.
Right.
And the refill rate is how much you refill when your bucket isn't full.
Yes. Yeah. And what? That's what I mean. And what Bart says is, and can we get rid of the total, like the second one, like token bucket size? Just leave the refill size or refill rate.
I think you need a size and a rate. You've got the size is the second one. The third and fourth could be replaced with a rate, I would think.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
So I mean, the bucket size you could provide that, but I think it's not really necessary. I think it's like over specifying things. Like if you think about for the per ENI limiters, like the PPS, CPS limiters, like there's no the only thing that's provided there is the rate. It's not like the burst size. And I think the same thing is here. I mean, just give us the rate. We can choose an appropriate burst size. Like unless there's some reason you want a specific burst size, like we can.
The reason is that sometimes we get instances and okay, I guess like the customer could say okay, I guess like sometimes the latency goes up or something like that. But in that case, it could be caused by the burst because once once the resimulation number is high, then it actually impacts the CPS path, right? So if we really see like, okay, if your simulation is high, like then can we say, okay, this don't allow any burst or reduce the burst size or increase the burst size if you see, yeah, it doesn't really have impact anyway, so why not like allowing more things?
But that's why,
yeah.
But do you expect the burst size to be over the rate?
Yeah. The burst size is over the rate. The burst size should be at least like larger or equal to the rate. So that will allows us to actually have a small amount of a burst, then shrink it back to lower
But that
rate.
doesn't make sense in this scenario where we are competing for CPS, assuming that flow resimulation competes with CPS. And
why?
because this burst would eat into the CPS. That's why we would only want to limit the total rate.
Yeah, but that's and that is a fun part. That's a fun part for the trade-off. So if we say if we say let's keep the the just same like the rate, then what happen is that if you don't allow any burst, what happens is that for certain cases maybe the connection will just like because it's limited to a single rate, right? So it's not like how to say like I will take one example, say the VM, because this one should be like well-known scenario. So this it basically say there is one VM that lives in one place, then getting migrated to another place. Okay, then we have to update the mapping and then update all the connections that is related to this mapping. So this migration actually have a it should be as quick as possible, right? Because you don't want like any connection gets impacted. So if that VM doesn't have like too many connections, then we'll say, okay, how about just allow the burst, let's migrate as soon as possible, and move on. But if the connection is, let's say if the VM really uses a ton of connections and we don't want to impact CPS, then it's like, okay, then let's fall back to like a lower rate. Let's keep the system not impacted. So there is like a small amount of a trade-off that we could do. So that is really the things I'm thinking about. But
so that would assume that for what you describe as a small number of connections is larger than the resimulation rate limit.
Right. Yeah,
is
but
it
as long as
really
it doesn't, yeah. But
is
yeah.
it realistic? Because what you're describing, only one mapping is changed, then it is the impact radius is not that big. It's only connections that are relevant to that mapping should be resimulated. I'm wondering if that's even realistic. What do you have in mind, for example, for the resimulation rate limit compared to like how many connections we may have in the that belong to the same mapping? Because I would assume that number of connections would be smaller than the total rate limit. Because I'm assuming that right now we don't have any pending resimulations. Now we do this small update to a mapping table. Now we have how many? 1,000 connections?
Yeah, that part I'm not so sure because this can go really high.
Right, but you're saying high, then
we're talking about hundreds of K. You can go as hundreds of K. Yeah.
Sure. Compared to millions in CPS that we have. So what do you have in mind for the resimulation rate limit if we have, say, 3 million per 200 gig CPS? How much of that you would carve out for resimulation rate?
So the number what I'm saying is actually just for one VM. But
no, I
if we are
understand.
talking
Like
about
total
but if we're talking about like
resimulation rate limit, what do you have in mind?
So because some stuff I don't know if I can say it here, but we can let's discuss offline. But the number I just said is for one single VM, right? So let's say for private link there is service, then service will have a lot of VMs underneath. So if we just like because mapping is point to the entire service, right? Point to the VIP. Then if that thing gets changed, then it's like then will be a ton of connections. If you are saying like if you will exceed like CPS, yes, you could exceed the number of CPS. Right, because you only need like few VMs to actually reach that.
But is there a requirement how long you would expect the resimulation to take until it's done with all the connection updates?
So and that's why we will be like good to have the trade-off here, right? At least we have the mechanism, because then we can say, okay, if it's not that crazy, then yeah, sure. Because as soon as possible is always better. But well, if the number is really like insane, then we definitely don't want like constantly impacting CPS. So it's like if it's a small burst, just a tiny little bit, yeah, it's fine. But it's like constantly impacting,
so what do you
then
win?
that will be bad.
What do you actually win with this small burst absorption?
Sorry, what do you?
So you described two cases. First one, you have a smaller number of connections, and then you're saying, okay, we would allow a burst to pass and resimulate them, let's say, sooner by sacrificing some of the CPS. But if it's a large number of connections, then your burst doesn't matter. It will be limited by the
Right.
resimulation rate. So I'm wondering, what do you win in this example where there is a small number of connections? You resimulate within 1 second instead of like 3 seconds or 4 seconds.
So sorry, in this example, the what do you mean by 1 second? Probably didn't quite get that part.
Oh, the burst. So we said that.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
There is a burst that would be actually cut off, and we would have to wait for the next packets from those connections that would span across.
That's actually the one of the reason at the refill interval, because with the interval we can basically control like what is the impact range, right? We allow the burst to goes into, because the interval basically controls that. Yeah. So
no, I understand what it controls. I'm asking, what are you gaining out of this?
Yeah, Jeff, can you, just tell me what happens if the bucket is full? I'm just trying to understand, is it a reason for you to not maintain the bucket on send the controller and then just, send the resimulation commands to the dash at the rate you want?
Should we get out the whiteboard?
Yeah. Is that a question to me?
Yeah, why would we actually, I'm just saying that what happens when the bucket fills up? What do you do on the controller side?
Oh, the controller just so this is basically a one-shot one-shot setting. So the controller will just say, okay, here is all the settings, like what are the token bucket size would be, or what the refill size would be, and that's it. Once that is set up, the control plane will not get involved anymore. So it's purely like on the data bus or on the side.
No, but we're getting the resimulation commands from somewhere, right? And what if the rate which you get from your application exceeds the rate which you're programming the hash rest of the device? What do you do then? Do you still buffer it in somewhere, or?
Oh, Ashutosh, it's event driven. It's not like someone goes over the connection table and updates connections one by one.
Yeah.
It's you basically for a given piece of configuration there is an epoch, and if it's outdated, then whenever a packet that belongs to that connection comes, then it will be enqueued for resimulation. So it may repeat again and again. So if bucket fills, like we fill the rate in whatever form that's what we are discussing. But if you exceed something, then this event is ignored, and you wait for the next packet that will trigger resimulation again, and hope that next time you are within limits.
Yeah, so basically it's a packet trigger. The policy update will just say, okay, let's mark the connection as pending resimulation required or pending resimulation, but the actual resimulation happens when the next packet comes. So how about them, Marian? I'll take this offline, so let's see if the one single flat rate is like acceptable or not. So if it is acceptable, then we can like remove the token bucket and refill interval. I think refill interval we don't have any questions, so this one can be gone. The question is that do we need the token bucket size or not? So refill size or refill rate is 100% needed and will be per second, but the token bucket size we can close that to see if that is. If it is acceptable to have them removed, and we'll get back. Is that okay?
Yeah, I probably just need to understand what your reasons are. It's not like there's no burst handling or something, or it's undesirable, but to understand how exactly the user would use that.
Yeah. You really just for like moving the VMs or moving the mappings, like you want to within reasonable impact, you want to move those things as soon as possible. Yeah, so that's basically it.
Hey, Riff, two comments and a question.
Oh, yeah.
So a comment is if for the naming, if you I mean we're going to have a rate for resimulation. I mean I would name the attribute like resimulation rate, and if we do decide that we need that bucket size, I mean I would call that the burst size. I think those are more like common terms for like policers.
Do you want to match the policers? That's actually one of the things I'm thinking as well.
Okay. The last thing was a question. So so I think the way this is supposed to work is, like a flow or connection is marked as needing resimulation. And then like a packet comes in, and then we look at the flow entry and say, oh, this needs resimulation. And we look at the rate and we decide, oh yeah, it's okay to do resimulation, or no, it's not. So say we're getting like say there's a lot of flows, a lot of connections, a lot of packets per second, and we're exceeding what the resimulation configured rate is. So is the intention that for the packets that we decide that don't trigger resimulation, we just use the old information until the resimulation happens?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's sometimes if that thing lasts for a long time, yes, it could cause problems, but we're not going to drop that. Or close the connections, drop the flow. Then it will be even worse. Yeah.
So in your opinion, like what's a long time? What's like a time that's like too long to use the old information? Like how, like,
So sometimes, so it actually really depends case by case. So some customers are really picky. Even just small number of spikes, like millisecond spikes, we get incident. We get like
Calls.
tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really case by case, and some customer doesn't really care that much. Is that like, okay, as long as my connection is alive, like it's not closed, it's fine.
okay, so we give more
yeah.
resimulation to those people who need the millisecond accuracy, right?
right. So basically, it's an okay. Yeah, if you really want to like, have those resources, like really depends. Yeah, sure. Here we
Okay.
go.
No,
Like-
I think that's like that's a good explanation, at
Yeah.
least for me. So
Yeah.
if someone doesn't look if the connection is alive, but as far as I understand, if the VM is migrated, connection will still be alive. However, we will miss a few packets while it's not resimulated. So some people do see that, and you would like to have a larger burst size, and others don't.
Yeah. So it's really depends case by case. Which is by we put it as options. So we can actually model that and give different customer like different settings. Really depends on the tiers they create or whatever.
This like quaz for resim.
Right.
Just kidding.
Yeah, it is indeed quaz.
So if this isn't exposed to the customer directly, I'm guessing, and it's just like part of like a tier of service, like the higher tier gets more like resimulations per second as part of the bundle. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like you're trying to find a balance between VM migration versus the impact on the existing connections, which are not tied to that VM, right? You don't want a VM migrations to affect the existing connections for the other VMs.
Yeah. Basically, the new connection is the ones getting impacts because it shares the same path. Yeah.
So, but then is a global setting enough? I mean, because okay.
That's because different. If we look at just like series right now, so different. We actually have multiple size for the NIC or for the ENI. So if the customer wants like a bigger ENI, they will actually get like bigger ones. So that means that a single. It will be better to put on the ENI level because you don't want like one single customer to impact other customers. And also some customers like their ENI is like larger, is a larger size, so you actually can support a higher rate or higher settings or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It should be already in the portal. But although I think I don't know if it's still preview or it is like already like GA'd. But yeah, we should be able to find it in the portal, like Hydro portal.
Hey, Riff, one more question. What do you have an estimate for like what the most stringent customer timing is for resimulation? Like what's the number that's like the most demanding customer demands? Is it like 10 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds or 1 millisecond?
I think the worst case I get is that their connection jittered for 70 milliseconds. That's the worst. I think it took me really long time to find out where the problem is. Yeah, but that's the worst instance.
Okay.
Yeah, 70, not 17.
Okay.
That will be too much. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That helps.
And Bud, I did kind of follow up on your question about the requirements, that we talked about last time, and I went over to the controller team and I, been asking around and, their question back to you, the question was, how long from the time the controller pushes the update to when it needs to be installed in the flow tables? I think that was your question.
Yep.
Yeah. Did I get that right? Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I think they came back and said, because a lot of times, number one, was it, what if they have 500 VMs and we have to update each one? Did you mean to the first one versus all 500? And then secondarily, did you mean from the controller to the flow tables, or did you mean simply when your API has to call and install into the flow tables, not necessarily from when the controller sent the message?
It was basically from the time the controller sends the message until the time it's like active in the data plane, or like all the way to the bottom of the
But
stack.
I don't think you can control the part where the controller down to the VM. Don't you just control the part where your ASIC gets the information to make a change into the tables? I guess that they were going a little more fine-grained with me.
Oh, well, I mean, sorry, I guess I meant from the SDN controller, calls down through the SCI API, and then like we program our tables, our forwarding tables, and like a new packet that comes in will react to that new configuration. I guess we're asking like from the time the call comes down to install, say, a new route, until the time a packet reacts to it, like what's like the expectation or
The requirement, yeah.
Yeah, the requirement, like, does it
Yeah.
have to be like basically instantaneous, like 1 millisecond
Right.
or something like that? Or would it
Right.
be like 10 milliseconds or 50 milliseconds? Like, because
Right.
it makes a difference because sometimes when you change a configuration, I mean, you just poke a byte into a table and you're done. Other changes might be more complicated, might require you to like recompute like a forwarding data structure, like a fib or a rib or something like that for IP forwarding. And if you have a lot of those coming down in a batch, or I shouldn't say a batch, in
A
a burst.
digest, something.
Yeah, I mean, if say you're getting route updates, right? It's like route update and more and more and more and more, and you get like a million route updates. Do you have to like individually program each one into the forwarding table and then say, okay, like I'm ready to accept a packet on that route? Or could you batch them and say like, well, I'm going to take 10 routes at a time and only install only recompile the routing table like 1 out of every 10 or
Right. I
every
hear what you're saying. And
2
so,
milliseconds or some number like that.
yeah. And I did talk to him. He said we're using a new architecture and it uses a new feature. And so, like in our SDN appliance world, we're already subscribed to this new feature, and we can pretty much immediately see route table updates. But then it's just our like agent that runs on the host. But then it would be the programming time of the DPUs. And so, I went a little further. I'm like, so that what's the requirement? And he says he sees updates within 100 milliseconds, but we're not really seeing problems from the time that it comes down to the host to being installed into the tables. So
Okay.
so I can go even further. And then I talked to Michael Zygmunt yesterday, and he was saying, and I don't really want to I need to go more into this with him. He was saying something about 30 seconds. Anything over 30 seconds would be too long, but I don't want that to be the gospel. I need
30
to dig into
seconds.
it a bit more. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so long.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I am following up on your questions. So just FYI.
Oh, great.
But
Thanks.
of course, it comes back and I get even more detailed questions back. So we may need to have a sync.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't want you to think I forgot.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I guess we're at or over time for today. Is there anything else, guys? Or can I let you go? So I'll do Andy's rule, 7 seconds. I will stop the recording. And thank you for your time. I actually learned a lot today again.